Hello, and welcome to another episode of Poly plus Amor equals us. This is our third episode, and we're so excited that you guys are continuing on this journey with us. And if this is the first episode you're listening to, welcome. Go back and listen to the first two episodes to hear all about who Mike and I are. Before I jump in, I just wanted to say happy birthday to Mike. Mike just celebrated his 34th birthday on February 10th. So we had a lot of fun. We had this really funny discussion about donuts versus cupcakes versus cake. And it turns out Mike really likes donuts over everything else, and I did not know that. So we celebrated with some really delicious fancy donuts from Sidecar on his birthday. So just want to give a shout out. Happy birthday, Mike. In this episode today, we are talking about our past relationships and how they have, really sort of affected who we are today, and how our experiences in our past relationships have gotten us to where we are now in our current relationship, and as to why we decided polyamory was right for us. So we are doing a little bit more background, but we also talk about just our own sort of journeys of growth through dating, which, we all grow when we are in relationship with another person. And so we talk about a lot of that and the personal growth that we've both gone through in order to get to where we are now. And then we also talk a little bit about some of the ways that we have grown just in our current relationship once actually starting to date other people. So we talk a little bit about that too. So yeah, I hope you enjoy this episode, and make sure to stick around for the end, because we have a funny blooper at the end for you guys. We had a mishap. We recorded this entire episode, and then just technology was not our friend. Mercury retrograde, who knows what, but it ended up not saving properly, so we had to redo it. And when we were redoing it, we recorded a test to make sure our audio was working, and it's really funny. So I'm going to include it at the very end. If you're watching this on video, I definitely recommend sticking around, because the video is pretty funny too. But okay, here we go. Let's hop right into this episode. Hello.
Hello.
Here we are, back again. This is actually take 2 of this episode. We had major issues. We recorded the whole thing, and then stuff happened. So here we go. We are recording it again. Let's just hop right into it.
All right, so this episode we want to talk about kind of past relationships and past experiences, and kind of how that's influenced us to becoming polyamorous. And so, yeah, let me just hop into my one relationship experience. So I've pretty much only had one major long-term relationship. It lasted about 5 years. It started around the end of 2008. It was my senior year of college. I was 21, and it lasted till about mid 2013. So it was almost 5 years, say 4.5, 5 years. Yeah, and so let me just hop in a little before them though. So during college, or say during high school and during college, I wasn't really super into dating. It just wasn't really a focus of mine. I was just kind of more into just playing sports and doing well in school and It's kind of the studious jockey type, and I it doesn't mean I didn't date. Like I still wanted to meet women and just pursue that desire, but I don't know, it was never a top priority of mine. So a lot of high school and college, I partied a lot, but I didn't really take relationships too seriously. And that's something I wouldn't say I necessarily have regrets about that, but knowing what I know now and being who I am now, I wish I kind of would have focused a little more on that back when I was younger. But hey, yeah, that's how life goes. So yeah, in college, a lot of I was in a frat, so a lot of the time I was just either studying or partying or just playing sports. I had some flings here and there that lasted maybe a month, up to like 3 or 4 months, but nothing ever super serious until late 2008. Uh, a good friend of mine, we'd been friends since about I think since senior year of high school, junior senior year of high school, so 2004 2005. So we've been friends for like 4 or 5 years. We're really comfortable with each other, and I guess she had always kind of had a crush on me, and I knew that. And I was attracted to her, but never so much so that I ever wanted to pursue dating her. But for some reason, I can't really pinpoint why, but I started liking her, and so we were studying a lot at the time we first started dating. It was actually finals week, and so we were hanging out at the library all the time. We were taking breaks.
Hanging out in the
I guess yeah, we're not
library.
really hanging out at the library. We were studying next to each other, keeping each other entertained and not going crazy from studying all day. But we grab, pretty much every meal together and hang out and talk and just keep each other sane throughout that time period. And yeah, and just after going through that whole couple week experience, we just we liked each other and we fell for each other and started dating. And that the rest of 2008 and then actually just the rest of college, it was kind of similar, or just kind of routine how our whole relationship went. We were still just trying to finish out college. We were very studious, trying to find jobs, so that was our main focus. We'd go out a couple times a week and hang out with friends and still party, but we're kind of beyond the crazy party phase at that point in our college career. So it was a lot of just studying and socializing when we could, and then um, yeah, and then just just spending time with each other. And so that was fun. I mean, for us at that time, that was what we wanted. That's what we needed. We needed that stability and that comfort, and just that sense of companionship with one another. And it was great. I enjoyed it. I'm sure she enjoyed it. And then after college, we were trying to figure out what we wanted to do exactly. So I had been looking into getting into like business consulting, but that ended up not being something I wanted to pursue. So I chose to go back to grad school at UCLA, and then she ended up going to law school at Loyola. But before going there, we actually went back to San Jose and lived in our hometown for a year and spent time with family and just kind of relaxed and got away from the stress and the hecticness of college life and just kind of reset for the next chapter of our lives. And it was nice. We were able to relax and not really be so stressed out and enjoy time with each other and our family. So really enjoyed that time. But then when we got back to LA, she was in full on study mode at law school. I was in full on study mode in my engineering program, and I just felt like we were in such a routine. It was just very structured. There wasn't really much passion in our relationship, and it was just so. It was almost just so transactional in a way, and I slowly started realizing that a lot of it was me. Like I just wasn't a very passionate and self-expressive person at the time. I'm still working on that to this day. And so I just felt like we were just kind of the same. We were very similar. I wouldn't say we're the same person, but we were very similar. Definitely more logical, more structured, and there just wasn't that like emotional, I don't know, pull that I felt like I needed. I needed somebody to kind of like help me in that regard and help bring it out of me. And I'm not saying that she didn't do that, but I guess I just wanted more passion and I also wanted to just go out and explore and date more because this was my first relationship, and I felt like I had a lot more growing and learning to do. And so after 4.5 years of dating, I ended up breaking up with her, and it was extremely difficult and extremely painful. And I feel bad because as I was saying, I wasn't the most expressive person, and I feel like I somewhat blindsided her with this breakup because I had never really brought up these thoughts and feelings I had of wanting to possibly see other people. Also, around that time period, a little bit before we broke up, I had started, developing feelings for somebody else. I was going out a lot with old college friends, and I'd met a friend of a friend, and I was super attracted to her. So at that time, I thought, like, wow, I'm into this other person while having, been dating someone for 4.5 years. So I thought that meant that, I may not like or love this person anymore. And at the time, that's how I view that. I view that feeling differently now that we've decided to be polyamorous. But that's just what I was going through at the time, and so we ended up breaking up. And then I started the single journey. It had been like almost 5 years since I was single, and I'd never really been good at dating or attracting the women that I was attracted to. Uh, and yeah, I mean there were quite a few issues there. So what I really wanted to do was just focus on being more confident and being more comfortable with who I was, and yeah, and I felt like the best way to do that was not only to go out and just meet people and try to date, but also through reading, dating books and learning from other people's experiences. And so I'd say over a few month period, I read, maybe three to five books. I can't remember exactly. I read, the most popular dating, maybe not so much dating, but a popular pickup book was The Game by Neil Strauss. And there were a few others. One was, it's called The Natural by Richard Loruna, and another one called Models by, I think his name was Mark Manson. And The Game was an interesting book, but it wasn't exactly what I was looking for. It was kind of more, it was more about just like the steps and like the strategy of how to actually like pick up women. And then after reading the book, it was more of a kind of a warning to I think to the reader, because at the end of the day, none of these guys actually were trying to develop any true emotional connection with these women. To them, it literally was a game. It was a strategy game. Here are the steps I need to employ to attract a woman. But at the end of the day, it wasn't fulfilling for them, and they all ended up being depressed and wanting more. They that void of love and companionship wasn't filled, and so that was an interesting book.
And that reminds me of the character Barney Stinson
Oh yeah,
from How I Met Your Mother. Right? He's like always sleeping with all these girls, and there's a new girl like every night all the time, but like he never had any like meaningful relationships with any of them, and that was always like this void in his life.
yeah. But he did have some pretty amazing suits, though.
He did have some
Suit
good
up.
suits. Yeah, suit up.
Until he met Robin, but
Yeah.
that was kind of his. Yeah, that was his transition.
Yeah.
His growth.
Yeah.
His evolution. But yeah, so I mean, it's similar.
Yeah.
It's a similar, character arc.
Yeah.
Storyline. I feel like a lot of guys, or some guys, at least some guys, go through that.
Yeah.
For me, though, it was more about developing confidence and developing a very strong self identity and being confident with who I was and expressing that when I was out. And I felt like I just didn't really have that when I was dating or when I was trying to date, like throughout college. So, anyways, and these other books I read, I really enjoyed them because they were more about the psychology and kind of like more of like the self psychology of dating. Like, what is your mindset? Like, what is your state of mind even before going out to date? and it was really all about identifying and trying to eliminate limiting beliefs that were holding you back. And like I feel like a lot of those beliefs kind of manifest themselves if if you ever put like a beautiful woman like on a pedestal, she's above you and like you're below her. There's some sort of like limiting belief there. And yeah, I'd never really been introduced to any of those ideas or topics before, and so it was fascinating reading about that. And I feel like it definitely helped change my mindset going out. I had more self-awareness. um, I never got super into like positive affirmations, but they did help. They help give you a little confidence boost. And yeah, just learning about how to kind of rewire your brain and redevelop beliefs. 'Cause, we have a lot of uh, like old, outdated beliefs from when we were a kid that are kind of operating subconsciously. And so, yeah, just coming across all these ideas that I had never heard of before, but once I read them, I was like, wow, like that's true. Like, that's totally. I completely agree with that from my own experience. I just never really thought of it before.
What are some of the limiting beliefs that you discovered about yourself during that time?
So the big one at that time, and I had already kind of thought about this, but it really came to the forefront of my mind after reading these books, was I just always felt like I had some pretty severe social anxiety. And whenever I was out, I just always felt tense. Like I just felt anxious. I felt like I just wasn't comfortable being in that situation.
Mm-hmm.
And I really didn't have any particular reason, but I was. And just thinking more about that, I feel like that really stemmed from back in kind of like the end of middle school to early high school for me. I was so shy. I never really considered myself to be that good socially. And so I just kind of developed a belief and deemed myself like not socially good enough or socially adequate. And I kind of pushed developing that side of me um, to the side and focused more on what I was good at, which was, studying and sports, like school and sports. So yeah, I guess at that time it was kind of coming to terms with that, just understanding and then trying to work on changing that limiting belief and just being more comfortable being out. And it was interesting because a lot of times when I was out, my, my friends would be like, "Oh, Mike, like you met so many people like when you were out, like you were just like you seem like a social butterfly." And so yeah, there were moments like when I was out and I did feel comfortable that I felt like I could have a great time and I could talk to anybody and I had that confidence, uh, and that was awesome. But I always felt like there's a couple issues. One was I would always feel most comfortable talking to guys just because it was easier for me to relate to them, and I would still get super anxious and just like get the sweaty palms, and I had a hard time even just like approaching a woman who I found attractive.
Mm-hmm.
And and then another issue was just that I kind of felt like I needed to be drinking, and that's something I didn't want to have drinking or alcohol as a crutch to rely on. I felt like if I wanted to be truly confident, I needed to be able to have that, strong foundation and that confidence no matter what situation I was in,
Yeah.
and didn't need alcohol, to feel comfortable in
Yeah.
a sense. And then thinking back to it, I realized like I was actually drinking quite a bit in college to try to, you know, dole out and just kind of suppress my social anxiety. And so that's something I had been working on a lot ever since being single. And then, yeah, I mean the dating for those 2 or 3 years before I met Elisa was interesting to say the least. I met some women who I liked, and others who I just was okay with, and just wanted some companionship at the time. But it was a good experience for me. I felt like I needed it. I needed to be single and out on my own. I was going out with friends, but just not have any relationship or any significant other to rely on at that time. And yeah, then I feel like when I met Elisa, I found somebody who was definitely passionate, definitely had a fiery personality,
Mm-hmm.
and she was what I was looking for, someone to help bring out that emotion in me.
Yeah.
And I feel like she's been very patient and has done a great job with that. And I'm still working on that to this day, but
Yeah.
I feel like I've made good progress up to this point.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah. Oh, and also, so while I was reading these dating books, uh, that's when I first became introduced to the idea of being polyamorous. So some of these guys would talk about developing uh, their relationships to the point where they wanted to have multiple relationships at one time. And I was always fascinated by that idea. At the time, it was a bit overwhelming almost, and seemed too far away because I was just trying to find one relationship at the time, not multiple.
Yeah.
So I was at level 1 and they were at like level 10. So it was a bit far fetched, but I was always open to the idea, and it was something that if I had ever gotten to the point where I was comfortable with myself and with and with my relationship, that's something I would consider. And so here we are.
Yeah.
Well, here I am now exploring that path.
Yeah, exactly.
Lisa's been exploring it for a little longer, but
Yeah.
yeah,
Well,
here we are.
sort of. Um, what, so you recently reread those books, right?
Oh yeah, so during the whole coronavirus pandemic, I was furloughed for a month, and
Like when the shutdown first happened in like April or
yeah, so
something.
mid-April to mid-May, I ended up getting furloughed for a month, and so I had all this free time. I was like, okay, well, what am I gonna do with all this free time? So I did some nerding out. I learned, I read a stats book, which I never formally learned. So
An
there's that.
actual like textbook.
Full on textbook.
A full-on textbook, went through the whole thing and basically wrote his own book.
It was more just like extensive notes. But yeah, I mean,
That's what he did with his free time, people. He learned statistics.
I mean, there just wasn't much else going on. So, and I enjoyed it. I felt like I learned a lot. But anyways, also, actually before even learning the stats stuff,
Yeah.
I wanted to brush up on some of this dating stuff because, like, well, now, I'm fully comfortable wanting to be polyamorous. I don't have to go out and date again. I haven't done that in quite some time since we started dating. We've been dating for
Coming up on 6 years.
coming up on 6 years. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's May 2015.
Yeah.
So yeah, I wanted to reread some of the shorter books and then just read over some notes I had or had made from when the first time I read the books.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, it was interesting. It really made me think about actually where I was when I first read those books to where I am now.
Yeah.
And just the confidence I had gained and the self-understanding I had gained from that initial point. And so it wasn't really anything. It was kind of just a refresh. It wasn't like I had any like.
Sorry, our cat is like begging Mike to pet her right now.
Yeah, it's not like I had any like brand new epiphanies, but
Yeah.
yeah, it was kind of just a reminder of like where I had come from and
Yeah.
where I am now, and
Yeah.
just being at this point where this is something that I would not have felt maybe fully comfortable pursuing back when I had first read the books.
Yeah.
Like what was that, 8 years ago now?
Yeah.
But to now being here, comfortable with it,
Yeah.
and starting this new adventure,
Yeah.
if you want to call it that.
Yeah. I just think that's so interesting that like the first time around when you read them, you weren't quite confident enough to really sort of like, I don't want to say employ all the tactics, but like, you know what I mean? But to like fully, like live out some of the suggestions in.
Yeah. Yeah, I know what you mean.
What,
Yes.
Yeah. What am I trying to say?
Well, it's not even really about. So it's not really about like, I guess in the game they do have like certain like tactics
Yeah.
to picking up women. It's really all about just having like something interesting to say, and then just not always, kind of not always being like the nice guy. If you, I don't know if you want to summarize it like that, but just just being different and standing out in some way. But I even like with like certain tactics or lines, I actually never really felt comfortable saying lines. I just thought they were too cheesy
Yeah.
and just like came off as completely like they were just so obvious.
Yeah, anytime a guy has come up to me and tried to use a pickup line, it's just like, really? It's yeah.
Unless it was like situational and kind of like funny.
Yeah.
But
then that's just someone being witty.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
You can tell the difference between when someone's like genuinely being witty or when someone's like tried to craft some like perfect pickup line.
Yeah. But even at that time, like I wasn't comfortable using pickup lines because I thought they were phony and would I'd be like found out.
Yeah.
But even with like the lines and even with like this newfound understanding, I still didn't fully have that confidence just to go out and like well, at least not all the time. Of course I would like start conversations here and there, but I still wasn't comfortable enough to like talk to women I was really attracted to.
Yeah.
Unless, unless a situation occurred where like I could talk to them and a conversation could come up.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was very difficult for me just to like walk up and approach a woman I was attracted to and just start talking.
Yeah. But now it would be different.
Yeah, now it would be different. I feel like I have the confidence and I just have just like a deeper calm. Like I don't have that social anxiety as much anymore. It's still there. It's not fully gone.
Yeah.
I'm still working on, just, I guess I'm just still working on like getting rid of it, if you want to put it like that.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I have a different mindset now. I'm not so worried and so stressed like that something is going to, go terribly wrong or I'm going to look stupid. It's just, I'm more focused on like what I want and like the positive aspect of it, which is like creating, a meaningful relationship with someone.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just think it's so interesting that kind of like this whole thing has kind of come full circle, like you read them before, but you didn't quite have the confidence and now it's like you get to try again in a sense,
Yeah.
or you get to do like you went from level 1 and now you're coming up to like level 10, like you were saying before, right?
Yeah, it's my growth.
Yeah. I just think that's really cool.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah.
So we'll see where it goes, though. We'll see where it goes.
Yeah. Okay, so my turn. Yeah.
Yep. Let's hear what you have to say.
Yeah. So for me, it was a little different. I dated a lot more before dating Mike, or before I met Mike. I had more like serious relationships. My first serious relationship started right before my senior year of high school. And that lasted 2.5 years. And then very quickly after that relationship ended, I jumped into my next long-term relationship. That one again lasted around 2.5 years. And so I think that kind of comes back to what I said in, I think it was the first episode, about when I met Mike and our relationship was coming up to that 2.5 year point. That's when that's when I cheated on him. And it was, again, something about like that 2.5 year mark, because my previous 2 relationships had ended right around that time. Somehow, I think subconsciously, that was there as well. My relationship with Mike was coming up to 2.5 years. And somehow I just had it in my mind that if we made it past 2.5 years, then like it was like the real deal. Then we could really last. But if we couldn't make it past 2.5 years, then it's because it like wasn't meant to be or something. I don't know. But somehow I had in my mind that 2.5 years was like,
yeah,
this
like the ultimate test.
Yeah, this like mark for me
Yeah.
that I had never been able to pass before. and like, I don't know why I thought that, but I did. So, yeah, so both relationships ended right around that time. And so, but I began to notice this pattern within these relationships. Part of the pattern, I do have to say, is I have always struggled with self worth. And I've always had low self worth, low self esteem. Part of that is because throughout high school and college, I was really struggling with depression. So there is that sort of aspect to what happened in these relationships. There was a sense of unworthiness. So both of these relationships that I had, and even with Mike, there was this feeling of not being worthy of this person's love, because both of the men I had dated were very good guys, and they really loved me, and I really loved them. But there was a sense that I didn't deserve their love. I didn't deserve that kind of love, the good love, the true love, the pure love, the non-toxic relationship kind of love. I didn't think I deserved that. So that's part of the reason that I think I struggled in relationships, was because then those feelings of not being worthy manifested in self-sabotage. And so I would sort of like push my relationships and test them to try and almost see how far I could go before I fucked it up, and then I would prove to myself, see, I'm not worthy of this person's love. And so there was that element, but then also the other part of it is I was also meeting people that I felt genuine connections with while I was dating these guys. So it's kind of like what Mike was saying about his previous relationship, when he was like, I love this person that I'm dating, but I'm also having feelings for these other people. And so that must mean that I don't love her. And so I was having that same experience. So in both of these relationships, if when that would happen, when I would meet somebody and be like, oh wow, I have a connection with them, then I immediately started to question my love for my boyfriend, because I never knew that was like an option. It was, oh well, if I'm feeling feelings for somebody else, then I must not love my boyfriend. That was the only way that sort of scenario could play out, or was allowed to work out in my mind and in my reality. I didn't know that it could be any other way. And so in these relationships, every time I would meet somebody that I had a connection with, I would break up with my boyfriend, so that way I could sort of pursue that feeling. And then usually I would get back together with my boyfriend after that. I still loved them, but I wanted to, still pursue these feelings I was having for somebody else. And so this became a pattern. And I didn't totally realize this pattern until I cheated on Mike. And until we sat down to have that conversation about, like, okay, why did this happen? How did this happen? And that's when I finally sort of put the pieces together and realized this pattern. And that's why in that moment I said, this is going to happen again. And that it was something that I knew I needed to be able to explore, because when I was having these feelings for this other person, I didn't want to have to ignore them. And so that's kind of the conclusion that we came to. And so I do have to say that when I'm talking about connections with another person, it's not just like your normal, oh, you're at a bar and you see a hot guy and like, oh, I kind of want to fuck him or whatever. You know, it's like it's not that. That's not the kind of thing I'm talking about. I'm talking about when you meet somebody and there's this immediate connection that you can't explain and you can feel it in your body. And most of the time, you know, we call it butterflies, or there's this sort of like electricity that you feel in your body or that you feel between you and the other person. It's something that you can't explain. And that's what I'm talking about pursuing. Because yeah, I mean, sure, you can be out and you can see someone and be like, oh, that person's hot, but it doesn't mean you necessarily want to actually pursue them and getting to know them, and or that there's even going to be a connection there. And on the flip side, before I met Mike, but after I had my 2 serious relationships, I met and dated this guy for about 3 months. And when I met him, there was that connection again. It was immediate, and he just was so like vibrant is like one of the words to best describe it. Like he just had this like magnetism about him. He was just so like confident and would just put himself out there and like didn't really seem to care about anyone's opinions, or at least that's how it seemed. And that was so attractive to me. But physically, like I did not find him attractive at all. And it was the first time I had ever had that kind of connection with someone who I didn't find physically attractive right off the bat. And I think for most of us, usually the reason we pursue somebody is because of the way they look. We see them and we find them attractive, and so then we go and talk to them. And so it was really interesting for me to have that experience of that physical connection that I couldn't explain, even though I didn't find him attractive physically. So like that kind of connection doesn't always like coincide with physical attraction, if that makes sense. So like when I'm talking about wanting to pursue these feelings, it's not just the normal like, oh, I kind of have a crush on this person, whatever. It's much more than that. And so I don't feel like when that happens, when we get those feelings, we can't explain them. Right? Like we don't get to pick and choose like, oh, I want to feel the butterflies for that person, you know? Like we don't know how to explain that. We don't know why we fall in love with certain people and not others. Like I don't know. There, as far as I know, there's no explanation for that, right? And so like to me it just feels so wrong to say like, wow, I'm feeling this thing for somebody, but I'm going to ignore it simply because I am in a relationship with somebody else. Right? But that's what people do in monogamous relationships. I can bet that anybody who has ever been in a long-term monogamous relationship has experienced that, where they're happy, they're in love, they're in a good committed relationship, but then they meet somebody else and they have some crazy connection with them and they can't explain it. And so they immediately shut it down because deep down they know that if they don't, they're going to end up being unfaithful to their partner. I can bet everybody has experienced this on some level, or maybe not everybody, but a majority of people have experienced that. And obviously I have experienced that as well, but instead of saying no and shutting it down, I said, I don't want to have to stop that feeling. I want to explore that feeling because again, we don't know why these connections are happening. And And so it's our body. Our body is literally talking to us, right? When we get hungry, our stomach growls. You know, when we have a cut, there's pain and it hurts to let us know, right? Well, then what about this? What about when we start feeling those butterflies and we feel that electricity? What is our body trying to tell us then? And so I don't think we should have to ignore those feelings. And there is a reason that is happening. It's not happening arbitrarily. There is a reason our bodies or our souls or our spirits are telling us, hey, pay attention. Pay attention to this person. There's something happening here. Your body is trying to get you to pay attention. And so that's why, like, when I experience that, I don't want to say no to that. There is something to be learned or something to be gained in getting to know this person and getting to know that connection and exploring what that is. And so that is the conclusion that we came to when we talked after everything happened. When I said this is going to happen again, that's what I was referring to. I was referring to this connection that I feel sometimes with other people. It doesn't happen often, but when it does, I want to be able to explore that because I don't think it's something we should have to ignore.
What was the phrase we came up with? The first recording?
Oh, explore, don't ignore. Yeah.
Sounds like the lyric of a Frozen song.
Right, it does. From like Frozen 2.
Yeah.
Into the unknown. You know, explore, don't ignore. Yeah. It does. But yeah, that's kind of the decision that we came to. And yeah, and have you ever felt that feeling that I'm talking about?
Well, yeah, and you know, during my first relationship,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, yeah, I've felt it several times while we've been dating.
Mm-hmm.
I just didn't pursue it early on.
Yeah.
We never talked about being polyamorous.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Interesting. Wonder who.
I
know.
I can't remember.
Right. Oh, I was gonna say we'll have to talk about that offline. You know.
Well, it was probably like just while I was out and you weren't there.
Yeah.
So I mean, I don't even know like if I even know their name.
Yeah. Yeah. True. But yeah, so that's kind of how we came to decide that we wanted to be able to, you know, pursue other people and other relationships, mainly because I was like, I finally figured out this pattern and I finally figured out what was going on. And so I was like, no, clearly this was important to me. Clearly, because in my past relationships, this pattern had already been there and I just hadn't fully recognized it and realized that, oh, wait, this is something that I really want and really need. And so from there, it was mainly because I was like, I don't want to give this up. I also didn't want to give up our relationship either, though. And that's what made it so hard. But I had to be honest with myself and honest about my feelings. And so that's kind of how we ended up here. And I think the fact that you had read about polyamory and had been so curious about it before is the reason why, like, we're here now. Because of those two things. I don't think we would have come to the same conclusion without it.
Yeah, and I feel like we just, of course, we both have kind of the same, like, underlying belief that, you know, these other romantic relationships will make us happier, and we're not taking away from our relationship together.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's not, yeah, I mean, we you know, the idea isn't so, like, brand new to us where it's a shock, but it's also something that we both, like, fundamentally believe in.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And I guess it's something that we had both experienced, but didn't know that it was, like, possible or that it was like doable, right? Because you said it earlier. You were in love with your girlfriend, but you had feelings for somebody else. And I said the same thing. I have been in love with like my boyfriend, but had feelings for somebody else. So we've both experienced it, but we just never had the permission to explore that more. And I'm sure many people have felt that way. And so, but we finally came to that point where we're like, wait, we can do both. We do still love each other, and we have had experiences with other people and realize that it doesn't take away from our relationship, but in fact, it adds to it. It adds like a whole nother layer of complexity, but in a good way.
Yeah, just another it's another deeper relationship
Yeah.
to be fulfilled by.
Yeah.
So I mean, that's the ultimate goal.
Yeah.
Is just to, I guess, learn from new relationships, but also just be happier.
Yeah. And we haven't fully been able to really explore that, but I feel like the few times, well, really there was only one time where I dated somebody and felt like a really good connection. It was going really well. And during that time, that like month, I felt like in exploring this other relationship with this other person, I was learning so much about myself in relation to somebody else. And that in turn helped me learn about our own relationship and helped me realize things about our own relationship that I'm not sure I would have gotten to quite as quickly if I hadn't been exploring a relationship with another person. Do you remember that? You're like,
Nah, you'd have to remind me.
Just when I was dating that guy back in recently from my past.
Oh yeah, okay.
Yeah. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
Yeah. I just felt like we had quite a few conversations that wouldn't have ever come up if I hadn't been dating him.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's slowly coming back to me. Yeah. I'm just trying to think of. I'm trying to remember the specifics of what we talked about, but
yeah, that's okay. Yeah, but I really just I can't wait to sort of like have a relationship with somebody else and get into that more fully, because in that short time that I was dating somebody and it was going really well, and I feel like there was so much to learn that I'm like, I can't wait to go deeper, because as I go deeper in that other relationship, I think that will only help to deepen our relationship. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Did that make sense? So, yeah.
Oh yeah, because that's what we're working towards.
Yeah.
And we're open about it with each other. So
yeah,
I think the new relationships that we do pursue have the potential to do that, to help our own relationship.
Yeah, exactly. Because I feel like sometimes I call them like blind spots. We have blind spots in our own lives, and like sometimes that's why we need to like talk things out with somebody else, because they can see like the issue or the problem or whatever within the blind spot, right? And because they're seeing you from their perspective, and so we have these blind spots, and I feel like we also have them in relationships, right? We have blind spots like within our own relationships, and so then when we are in relationship with somebody else, we can almost like compare the two relationships and then go, oh, I'm really good at doing this with this person, but I'm not so great at doing it with that person. And so we can sort of like identify our relationship blind spots when we are in relationship with somebody else. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So and that's how like our relationship can grow more, is because as we explore these other relationships, we're then able to identify those blind spots and sort of work through them.
Yeah, and that's another main goal of ours, is just continual growth.
Yeah.
And yeah, that is one way to like not remain like stagnant.
Yeah. All right, everyone. As promised, here is that blooper.
Test 1 2, test 1 2.
Okay, but like talk how you normally talk.
Oh, hi, my name is Mike. I like playing soccer.
Elisa likes to burp.
Okay.
All right, everyone, that is it. Thank you so much for tuning into this episode. As always, we ask that you please subscribe to the show if it's something that you're interested in and want to keep hearing from. Our goal is to really, just share our story with as many people as we can, because we know how important and how powerful it is for other people to hear stories like ours and know that they're not alone, that this is normal. It may not be as normal as monogamy, but this is normal to feel this way, to have these thoughts and these feelings. And so the more that you can help us, the more we can help everyone else. So really, we're just trying to broaden our reach, to reach more people who need to hear this. So please subscribe to our show. That is the number one way to help us. And also rate our show if you're on iTunes. Hopefully it's a 5-star rating, but rate our show and let us know what you think. That's the best way that you can help us continue to grow this. And as always, if you have any questions, or if you have suggestions, or if you want to reach out to us, please do. You can see our email address in the show notes is poly+amor equals us, and then the number 8 at gmail.com. So it's everything spelled out. Poly plus PLUS, amor equals, spelled all the way out. It's in the show notes if you want to see it. But yeah, you can send us an email, or you can follow me on Instagram. My handle is @_Elisa, ELISA.Janelle, JANELLE. That's in the show notes as well. But we seriously would love to hear from you with any thoughts that you have. If this brought anything up for you and you have questions, like, please reach out to us. We would love to connect with you more. All right, so that's it for this week. Thank you so much for tuning in, and you'll hear from us next week.